Hello and welcome to the JW Thoughts channel. My name is Wally and I'm from the future because I just realized I had forgotten to record an intro to this video. So, welcome to another day of Wally's Convention Crusade. And today we are getting blessed. Yes, we have Tony Morris, who's going to be presenting a very fascinating talk to us. Or, it's kind of fascinating. I mean, it's Tony Morris, so it's fascinating because it's him, and there's always implications for the things that he says because he's such a wild card. So anyway, thank you so much for joining me for another day of Wally's Convention Crusade. Don't forget to drop a like on this video if you're enjoying it. Subscribe to the channel. Let's do this thing.
For this part of the symposium, Share the Good News of Peace, we're going to discuss the need to take the initiative. Now, first of all, why take the initiative? Well, think about it. One thing about being Jehovah's Witnesses is that we're never off duty. We never stop being one of Jehovah's Witnesses, wherever we are, whatever we're doing. So it isn't just that when we're out in formal preaching work with congregation group, we are one of Jehovah's Witnesses all the time. There's no such thing as being off duty when we're one of Jehovah's Witnesses.
This joke has been said so many times, I find it horribly banal at this point, but I thought that this would maybe be an appropriate time to mention it, and that is, it's funny to me that this man was caught on video, and he no doubt knows he was caught on video at his little liquor store buying a really aggressive, I guess would be the right term, an aggressive amount of very expensive whiskey or scotch. And it's funny because he's like, we need to be witnesses all the time. And then he gets like David Attenborough, you know, they get the film cameras out and they catch him in his natural habitat. And in his natural habitat, he spends more time not talking about, well, I know you really like this type of alcohol, but you know the best type of drug or choice you could get is the Paradise Earth. Like, he doesn't take that time that he's out going shopping to go and preach to anyone. He only says, hey, you know what? When you're out shopping, you need to go and take that opportunity to preach to people.
Let's examine how to do it. And the best example of how to do informal witnessing is, of course, Christ Jesus. And we're going to take a look at how Jesus took the initiative and then imitate him. In verse 7, a woman of Samaria came to draw water. Jesus said to her, "Give me a drink." Give me a drink. 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 I need it. Real simple. Give me a drink. Jesus. See, to imitate Jesus, even in the case that you're tired, you're thinking of others, and you want to take the opportunity to start a conversation. That's the initial goal.
I won't bang this drum for too long, but my goodness, is it absolutely hilarious that he's like, hey, even if you're tired, you know, you need to be like Jesus. Circumnavigate your own fatigue in order to try and get a new recruit to join the ranks of Watchtower publishers. It's so hilarious to me that we have footage of a governing body member exhibiting the exact same, the opposite of the behavior that he's promoting here. And if it's, well, I was tired, I was busy, I was doing this. You don't really have an excuse now because you've come out and told Jehovah's Witnesses that even if they're busy, even if they're in a hurry, even if they're tired, you need to always be thinking about preaching. Take your own advice. See ya.
And then we learn more here with parentheses, for Jews have no dealings with Samaritans. And it went both ways. That's the way the prejudice was. No dealings. And on top of that, she's a woman. And women were not treated very nice during that period in man's history. So she's a Samaritan. She's a woman. and Jesus asks her for a drink, starts a conversation with her.
You, Tony Morris, what are you doing in order to improve the situation? Yes, women weren't treated very well back in those days, but now, what has the organization done? What has the governing body done in order to improve the situation? I would argue that they're perpetuating the situation and making it more difficult with this whole stupid argument that they make that the Bible promotes that women need to be submissive to men, even though, if you guys watched one of my previous videos, I make a pretty good case that the Bible doesn't really say that, and there is at least room to have a more nuanced opinion of that. Anyway, if you want to see that video, check out the card right here, and back to our regularly scheduled program.
So the lesson for us there is, don't judge people by what you see, based on their culture, the color of their skin. This world is filled with judges. We're Jehovah's Witnesses. We don't do that.
What did he say?
Don't judge people by what you see. We leave the judging to Jehovah and Jesus Christ, and don't judge whether you think they'll converse with you.
That homosexual acts are unrighteous. God specifically warned the Israelites against this and other forms of immorality. Leviticus chapter 18 and verse 22 says that homosexual acts are detestable. Does Jehovah still find it so offensive? God gave them over to disgraceful sexual passion. For their females changed the natural use of themselves into one contrary to nature. Likewise also the males left the natural use of the female and became violently inflamed in their lust toward one another, males with males, working what is obscene and receiving in themselves the full penalty which was due. Some would disagree. As verse 28 points out, such ones do not consider it worthwhile to acknowledge God. But with what result? As it says there, a disapproved mental state, just the opposite of peace.
That's wrong. Jesus didn't do that, and he set that perfect example for us.
It's really unbelievable that this world is filled with judges. How dare they? Jehovah's the one that judges. Who are we to judge people? That's ridiculous for us to assume the power of God and judge other people for how they live their lives. I mean, clearly, this is absurd, and Jehovah's Witnesses would never, ever do that.
Give me a drink. You could be in the doctor's office waiting room. So you speak from your heart, and you notice the person's looking at you. Boy, I look forward to the day I'll never be sick again. Well, they could look at you and say, well, this guy's crazy.
Yes, they will look at you like, hey, this guy is crazy. If you're like sitting in a doctor's office, man, I really look forward to the day when I'm never going to get sick ever again. I put my headphones in and I pull out my book and I start reading, hopefully that this weird tinfoil hat man isn't going to try and spout off about some nonsense, because he is talking crazy talk.
Now, next we have a video here. Now, as you watch the following video, notice how a sister finds an effective way to witness informally.
They seemed nice.
I knew what Yuri was thinking.
I wanted to start a conversation, but I didn't want to bother them either.
So if this happens to you and someone's like looking over at you while you're just trying to eat your lunch, are you going to be like, why do you keep looking over at me, dude? Like, is there something on my face? Did I do something? Did we go to high school together? Like, what is happening here? And it's like, if she keeps looking over, oh, I could tell they were nice, or they were creeped out because you were looking over at them constantly and they're trying to figure out what your angle is.
But I didn't want to bother them either. And when an opportunity came,
oh no, the reason she was looking over wasn't because she wanted to gain everlasting life with baby pandas and watermelons. She wanted some togarashi seasoning for her rice. It looked like togarashi seasoning. I could be wrong, but I highly doubt I am.
I just froze. Then I was in a rush to give a witness. It felt forced. It helped to hear that we'd all been there. Our past experiences were similar.
The music that they use absolutely cracks me up every single time. Man, a missed opportunity to witness. It felt forced and they were uncomfortable. Yeah, because the situation was uncomfortable and it was really weird. They were looking for some seasoning, and then randomly and in a weird, oh, but do you want this track that talks about how you'll see your dead loved ones again? Thanks for the seasoning, but I'm good. And then the music change here when the new people sit down and all of them start smiling. Imagine if you were sitting down next to this group of people that are dressed like they live in the 1950s. You sit down and then they all look at you as you're sitting down, and then they look at each other and like, wouldn't that be like the most uncomfortable thing ever? I'd be like, what the fuck is about to happen here? Are they trying to get me involved in some weird swinger sex cult bullshit? Like, get me out of here. Oh man, it always makes me happy when Watchtower goes full delusion mode and they actually portray things as they want it to happen, because it just looks odder than I can even conceptualize in my brain. Jehovah's Witnesses, when they make these dramatizations, they make it stranger than the fiction I can come up with in my noggin, which is fantastic.
Whenever we didn't put pressure on ourselves and just looked for something in common to talk about, we could usually find a moment when we could say something about the Bible. She was curious why we were dressed up. Turns out that she'd never talked to Jehovah's Witnesses before.
And she never talked to Jehovah's Witnesses again.
Personally, when I was in the traveling work, sometimes I'd be working with one of the brothers or one of the sisters, and they had opposition in some of the territories we'd work, and I could tell they were feeling the stress, and I knew it was the reaction of some of these householders. So what I used to enjoy doing, and they appreciated after they realized what I was doing, we'd be walking along, and then I'd just stop, and I'd look up, and I'd say, "You see him?" And they're like, "Who?" He's right up there above the trees. And they'd look at me like, "Our circuit overseer's lost it." But I said, "See," and would tell them about Revelation 14:6. When we're in the preaching work, whether it's informal or out there formally door to door, the angels are the real reapers. At least one is nearby.
Yes, Tony Morris, as a circuit overseer, was able to put on his superpowered glasses to see into a dimension that we mere mortals have no access to. And people, rightfully so, said, well, looks like our circuit overseer has lost it. But then he went back and really clapped some cheeks with the logic bomb. No, there's always an angel watching it. I know because I know. This story that he tells is really, really dumb. But I sped up most of the end of this talk. It's really insignificant. Or it does. I sped up the rest of his talk just because it's not all that interesting. So let's move headlong into the next speaker.
To encourage us to promptly follow up on interests that we find in the field ministry, Paul likens our work to a plant that grows from a little seed. Now, what's vital for a planted seed to grow? One authority says, of all the factors that determine seed germination, water is the first and most important. And another reference says, until seeds have sprouted, keep the seed bed moist, never allowing it to dry out.
Moist is one of few words in the English language with the power to make your skin crawl.
So, what will happen to a seed that is not watered? Nothing. It will lay dormant. See, regular watering is vital for a seed to sprout, to take root, and in fact, continue to grow.
So my personal experience when it comes to making return visits is basically when someone is friendly and they just want to end the conversation quickly, or they're just being courteous, they aren't expecting you to show up and start banging on their door 2, 3, 4 times a week until you answer in order to further the discussion. So most of the time it's like, wow, that was a really great initial call. And then miraculously, the person never answers again. So it's like, well, I placed a Bible teach book. I demonstrated the Bible study. They said I could come back, and then they ghost you. And that has been my experience in spending 10 years as a pioneer. And it's funny because I think the more and harder you go in trying to do return visits, it actually has a reverse effect, because it's like, well, I got to do my return visits. And I would go to return visits multiple times a day, multiple times a week. So it would be like if my service days were Monday, Wednesday, and Saturday. On each of those days, I would go once in the morning and once in the afternoon. So I've tried to reach this person, 6 times during the week, and maybe they were home and like freaking out, like, dude, you need to relax. So I just think it's funny that they're going down this route. But all of this whole symposium about the preaching work I find funny. So anyway, let's continue.
Many people who show interest in the kingdom message today are searching for the truth about God. In order to teach them progressively, we must return again and again.
Ami left a great question for her next visit. Return visit, Mrs. Iwata. I told her I'd visit this morning. I just didn't schedule the time. I could at least stop by on the way back. Mr. again. If I didn't try something different, I was just going to keep missing her. First, I wanted her to know I hadn't forgotten her. Dear Mrs. Iwata, I hope you're doing well. I promise to come by early next week. By the way, your flowers are so beautiful.
This is something that has really only occurred to me watching this dramatization, but if someone did this to me now, I would call the police. If, they came on the camera that monitors the front door and I see them coming by multiple times every single week, leaving me notes and things, I would be genuinely like, okay, this is weird. This is bizarre. I don't like this. I don't want anything to do with you. I don't want what you're selling. Leave me the hell alone. And it's odd seeing it on the other side of the spectrum, isn't it? Because as Jehovah's Witnesses, we thought we were showing this determination. We were doing such a good thing. We were being a good witness of Jehovah. And yet on the other side, we're like, wow, we must have seemed really crazy that we were doing all of this. Yes, I'm eating lunch. Just a taco bowl from tacos last night with some salad and a little bit of hot sauce. Comment down below what you had for lunch.
Then I made a plan for my service day. Following through is just too important to leave to chance.
Lastly, and of utmost importance, even if the return visit is brief, share a scriptural thought.
Now, I cut out most of this talk because it was mind-numbingly boring, but I did think this was interesting because it flies in the face of what my experience was as a Jehovah's Witness. And that was, if you wanted to have a lot of return visits, you needed to talk less about the Bible. So the people that had a maximum amount of return visits were people that would go and talk about their yard and their pets and their kids and their grandkids and food and nothing, stuff they found in the news. Nothing anywhere related to the Bible. And then at the end of it, like, well, here's your magazine for the month, or here's your little track for the week. And that would be the end of it. And those were the best return visits, because you could go there and be like, oh, talk about basketball for 5 minutes and then leave the person with a magazine and say, see you later, sayonara, catch you next time.
Brother William Malenfant, a helper to the teaching committee, will now present the final talk of this symposium. Be ready to share the good news of peace, help students grow to maturity.
Basic Bible teachings are wonderful. Usually, it's the fundamental doctrines of the Bible, basic teachings, that draw people to the truth. Isn't that what we want to achieve with our Bible students? To help them move beyond the primary doctrine and progress to Christian maturity. When Bible students experience the good that comes from obeying Jehovah and following his ways, their love for him will deepen. As you watch the following video, please note how a sister helps her student to make progress toward maturity.
As per usual, I've cut out most of this because it really doesn't say a whole lot. It's, hey, we don't want to just use basic Bible teachings. We want to use these profound Bible teachings. As you know, on this channel, those profound Bible teachings are a whole lot of horse shit. So, yeah, let's see this dramatization and see how they can shovel some horse shit down people's throats.
Mrs. Iwata was doing great. We were already on lesson 10. I really hoped she'd come to a meeting soon. We talked about Hebrews 10, 24 and 25, and watched the video. Did I miss something? I guess I did. I was too focused on our progress with the lessons, instead of her progress and what she needed. Mr. Iwata said going to meetings would dishonor the family. He wanted her to quit the study. She didn't want to quit, but whenever she tried to talk about it, they argued. We showed her where to look for help and made time during our studies to talk about it more.
Ah, yes, the old inevitable. When someone starts the progress towards becoming one of Jehovah's Witnesses, they generally will get pushback from their family. And in the old Bible Teach Book, I don't know if the new one says that, but it was in like the first 2 lessons. I think it was the very first lesson, even in the very first few paragraphs, where it talks about, now as you're starting to learn these Bible truths, there are going to be some that don't want you to learn anything about that, but you need to be strong. You need to stay focused, and you need to realize how important it is that you become a Jehovah's Witness despite this family opposition. And that is why they're starting the narrative of, but she hasn't been to meetings yet, because once she starts getting that pushback from her family and friends, then she'll need a replacement for her family and friends. There comes the love bombing. So that's kind of how it works. You get the pushback. Well, why are you joining this cult? They believe in all these weird things. Are you literally going to walk around thinking I'm going to die in the very near future if I don't agree with you? Like, seriously, dude, what's wrong with you? And then they need the congregation to come in and be their new friends and family. So that's generally the formula and how it works, and that's why they want to get them to the congregation meetings as soon as possible. That way it can counteract the pushback they would get from the people they already have in their lives.
And we all prayed for Jehovah to bless her efforts. We did our best to share the good news of peace. And Jehovah did the rest.
And the crowd goes wild. She walks through those doors and she's already got the outfit. She's ready to become a Jehovah's Witness now. A yeehaw.
Sacrifices. Your readiness to share the good news of peace with others is just such a sacrifice. And you can rest assured that Jehovah is thoroughly pleased with your loving and faithful service to him.
Not a whole lot to talk about in this presentation here. He just goes and breaks down various lessons in one of their study brochures and talks about the path to becoming a cult member. Most of us are pretty familiar with that, but it's like a slow building up process until they're fully immersed within the organization. But, yep, not a whole lot to talk about there, so let's move on.
An 18-year-old brother was trying to decide what he wanted to do after high school. He was raised in the truth, and in his heart, he wanted to be a pioneer. But he also had a scholarship to go to university and some other grants, and he had been accepted to attend. He had many questions. How was he going to support himself? And much pressure from his teachers and counselors to go to university. What decision would he make? Well, maybe many of you young ones who are listening to this talk right now are facing that same decision, or maybe you will be in a year or two. What path will you take? Well, now here's what we know. Jehovah wants you to have not just a good life, not just an average life. He wants you to have an awesome, wonderful life, both now during your youth, but really for your entire life.
Woo! Yeah, God wants you to have that awesome life, the best life ever, and you can do that by reading the Bible and reading Watchtower publications that were written by nincompoops for nincompoops. Oh yes, he wants you to try and build kingdom halls. That way Watchtower can keep their financial security firmly intact. Don't you want to be a Jehovah's Witness youth? Yeah, let's get it!
But now here's a question. What challenges could prevent you from starting or continuing on the path of full-time service? And more importantly, how can you overcome those challenges? Well, let's talk about 3 obstacles. Here's the first one. It's financial concerns. How am I going to support myself? We just need to develop our faith that Jehovah will provide the things we need if we put his service first.
Financial concerns. You gotta have faith, faith, faith. You just gotta have faith, faith, faith.
Here's the second obstacle. Pressure from others. My relatives want me to focus on making money. When the decision works out well, when it leads to success, when people see how happy you are and how successful you are, the joy, the satisfaction you have, well then, what happens? Well, maybe your relatives will see that your decision has been vindicated. It's been proved righteous by the way things have turned out.
You guys are totally bumming me out. All I want to do is pioneer, don't you know? It's the best way. It's the best life ever. Are you really sure about that? You just wait and see, man. Everything's gonna work out perfectly for me, and God's gonna take care of me because I got the faith, bruh.
Here's obstacle number 3. Unexpected challenges. I thought it was going to be easier than this. So, when those trials come, and they will come.
Boy, he's got guys coming down his face, coming down his face. Boy, he's got guys coming down his face.
So, when those trials come, and they will come, don't look for a quick way out. Endure. Keep going. Don't give up.
Just don't give up. I know it might seem like I just got done saying that what you really need to do is just trust in Jehovah and he'll take care of you. But then when you inevitably find out that it was way more difficult than you could have ever imagined, when you didn't get the support that you needed from an all-powerful superhero that lives in the sky and only pops down now and again, seemingly randomly. I know that you put all your faith and confidence in this, and then your expectations were completely squashed to the ground. Just don't give up. Just keep going, because I mean, you've already wasted your youth, so you may as well waste your 20s and your 30s now. It's so dumb. I know I've cut out most of this talk, but it's everything you could possibly expect from Watchtower talking to young ones. He does give them like advice. Hey, you should learn this trade. You know, you should focus on not getting a higher education, but it would be fine while you're in high school to learn some type of trade, because hey, Watchtower is always needing more people that can do construction work. For our ever-expanding numbers that are somehow on the very, very just flat line. Anyway, let's see what sort of dramatization he is going to bring home to wrap this talk up.
In the following video, notice how some full-time servants have found real peace despite those three obstacles: financial concerns, pressure from others, and unexpected challenges.
I prayed to Jehovah, if it is your will, I would be happy to enter pioneer service. But I had to work really hard to provide for the needs of my family. Because my father had died when he was 45 years old. The elder I talked to gave me advice not to be picky on what kind of job I would have. He reminded me of Matthew 6:33 and told me not to be overly anxious. Because of our good communication within the family, we were able to find solutions. My other siblings realised that they also shared responsibility in providing for the needs of the family. After 1 year of pioneering, I was encouraged to apply for Bethel service. And now I am in Bethel. I feel that Jehovah really cares for me, loves me, and appreciates all my efforts.
Harley, may magandang balita ako sa'yo. I guess that would be awkward if he speaks Tagalog or Ilocano and not Tagalog. Well, anyway, it means I have some good news for you. And the good news I have for you, Harley, Henry, whatever your name is there is a life outside of this organization. Please, please, please take care of your family. Take care of yourself. The Watchtower doesn't need more people in order to do free labor for them. That's not something necessary that's going to make the world a better place. Stop. There is a better life out there for you. I promise things will get better.
Because they love me, my cousins pressured me to choose a secular career. If I went against their wishes, it would hurt them and put a strain on our relationship. I was really anxious. I wanted to show my trust in Jehovah by pioneering and give him an opportunity to show me that I can be happy in his service. I tried to express my appreciation for my cousins by what I said and did, and showed them love. They realized that I have changed for the better. I show more concern for others now. Now they understand that we have been learning good things and that we have a happier and more meaningful life.
If you quantify how happy and meaningful your life is by just looking at what you think, well, I've convinced myself that I'm happier and I'm living a more meaningful life, but not actually being able to produce anything, not being able to give any sort of demonstration for the claim you're making. It's just, well, how do you know you're happier and living a meaningful life? Because I'm happy and I know I'm meaning a living full life. Help me, please. I need to get out of this cult.
I wanted to try serving where the need was great. When I first arrived, I thought it was so cool being there. I had expected the poverty, but when I saw it, it hit home more than what I had expected. So then I started to feel really homesick. But my brothers and sisters, I'd go to the Kingdom Hall, and they were able to cope with the challenges that they were facing because they had Jehovah in their life. So their example really helped me to see that my circumstances don't need to change for my attitude to change. Proverbs 15:15 stood out to me about having a cheerful heart and being able to have a continual feast no matter what my circumstances are. And I found an article about that scripture. And so from there, I decided to ask myself, how can I use my situation and what I'm learning to help others? And got to start helping with foreign language group there. That whole experience just made my love for people grow so much and definitely changed my life.
Now, with all three of these examples, we have to consider that these kids were being told from a very young age what was going to make them happy, what was going to give them a fulfilled life. Their path was already marked from the day they were born.
You were the chosen one!
And it was like really hammered into their head at every single stage. That's exactly what this convention is teaching them. The happiness you experience in this life is going to be directly related to how hard you work for the Watchtower organization. The more turbo Jehovah's Witness you are, the happiness meter goes up. And when you leave, or you don't do enough, or you don't, exert yourself vigorously in all of these ways, it's going to lead to sadness, and you're going to be depressed, and you're not going to be confident in your relationship with Jehovah, and you might even end up in the world like an apostate, doing drugs and drinking cans of Jim Beam out with the boys, getting in fist fights and throwing rocks at the police. It's so silly that they have this propaganda as it is, and it's like, look at these great examples of young ones. Well, all you did was find three people that were willing to come on and not actually tell you about the real struggles they had, not actually talk about the doubts they had, not actually say, yeah, Jehovah never showed up to help me, the Watchtower never showed up to help me, just to come on here and say, yeah, it was great because I get to be on the broadcast at the assembly now. And thus ends the Saturday morning session. Yes, I'm wearing the same shirt because I am going to be recording all of these, and then I'm going to go back and edit them. And we'll try and be somewhere. Well, why am I telling you that now? Because this will probably be like the third or fourth video. That doesn't make any sense. Well, none of this actually makes sense. So maybe this actually, in some weird perverted way, makes more sense than any other outro I could have concluded. Yeah, actually, and everything comes full circle. Yeah, YouTube stuff, like, subscribe if you're still around, and I'll see you tomorrow. Probably should record some more of those. Yeah, I'm too lazy.